This video is off to a great start. I don't know if you can tell, but got a nice giant stain on my shirt from sipping my drink. Anyway, I'm not bothered about. Is it bad? I don't think so. Hi, hello friends. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome to the vlog. If you're new here, hi, welcome. My name is Deb or Deborah. Go by either, and I'm super excited to be filming today because I wanted to film a reset. It's supposed to be like a February resetting for February, wrapping up January, that sort of thing. And honestly, I'm not entirely sure how I want to structure this video. I have very general ideas of all the things I want to touch on, but I don't really know how it's gonna go. So because I like resetting and I don't mind watching reset videos, and I think closing out the month and preparing for a new month, there is something kind of like magical about that sort of routine, and I do appreciate being able to do that. But I want to try and film this and showcase this in a way that is not just me cleaning my apartment. Yes, I'm going to clean my apartment. No, I'm not going to show that. But I'm going to show and talk about other more interesting things that I feel like would contribute to the essence of wrapping up the month of January, reflecting on the month of January while also preparing for the month of February. Oh, and by the way, and this is I'm just drinking my Magic Mind shot. Just poured over ice. You can actually enjoy it in a few different ways. I talked about Magic Mind in a previous video, and I've been taking it for I don't even know how long now, but I definitely notice a huge difference in terms of my focus and stamina and mental stamina. So yesterday was easily one of the longest days I've had in January. I had a very long and intense work day. I was in a meeting all day and talking about very difficult things, literally from 9:30 until 4:30. We took a break for a little bit, and then we were right back at it. And then I came home, and I was home by 5:30, and from 5:30 on, I was editing and preparing a vlog to go live. But I felt like I was able to push through and get my to-do list done because I had taken this shot earlier in the day. And so I was just kind of switched on and focused and sharp and smart. And even though I was physically tired, I was still, bringing it. So I really have been liking incorporating the shots into my routine. I believe they are currently having a deal where you can get 45% off of their mental performance shots, which is what I'm having, and their sleep shots as well. And so if you are really looking to up-level your mental game in 2025, I would definitely recommend giving Magic Mind a shot. No pun intended. Ooh, okay. I think I might need to change the angle. Or maybe take off my glasses. The glare is so annoying, but I can't help it. I can't see without my glasses. So I'm sorry. I'm gonna keep my glasses on because I need to see because I'm using my iPad. But the first thing we're going to sort of talk about with this reset is working through all of the goals and habits I had set for myself for the month of January. So I do all of my habit tracking on Notion. It's just a dashboard that I think it was originally a Notion template, but I have sort of adapted it and transformed it into my own. And I'll be transparent here. I want to be as authentic as possible and share aspects of my life that I feel might be beneficial for others to know about because it might be inspiring. However, one thing you may or may not know about me is that I am a thoroughly private person. I'm very private, and I shy away. Really, I think intuitively to me, it makes sense to keep some things, to keep some cards close to my chest and not share every aspect of my life. I think these days, many people are very comfortable oversharing. And I think the point that I'm trying to make is, while I want to be helpful and while I want to share my goals and habits and how I've fared in the month of January, I'm also going to be wise and careful, and I won't share every single thing. And so I will do a screen recording of my dashboard. However, I am going to blur out certain things that I feel like are sensitive and private information to myself. And I hope that you can understand and respect that. I don't think me blurring out certain things or me being willing to only share certain aspects of my finances, for instance, is disrespectful. It really is just setting a boundary, and I hope you can understand that. Now that we've gotten that spiel out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about the goals that I set for myself in January. So I tend to break up my goals into categories. So I have a category for health, wellness, spirituality and knowledge. I have a category for finances, and I have another category for work, and then a separate category for content creation. Now, in terms of health, wellness, spirituality, and knowledge, I set 4 goals because I was just January was a month for me to get back into my routines and building my system. So I didn't want to overwhelm myself and be unrealistic. I was trying to set smart goals. And so I set 4 goals. And I am very thrilled and pleased to say that I actually hit all of those goals. I journaled and prayed every day. Went to the gym actually 5 days a week. I think the only week that I didn't go to the gym 5 days, which is 4 days, was 1 week in January. But throughout the month, I was very consistent about getting back into the habit of waking up early and going to the gym first thing in the morning. I read more than 3 books. I will talk about all the books that I read in a later segment of this video. And I actually took the step after almost 2 years of, finishing therapy to find and connect with another therapist. And it's not because I'm having mental issues or anything, but I am a firm believer of the fact that you're never done your healing or growing. And I do feel like this is definitely the case for me. And so I really wanted to be able to connect with a therapist that I could talk through certain things that are going on in my life, and just unfold and discover who I am a bit more, because one of my overarching goals for the year 2025 is to know who I am better and to figure myself out better. And I feel like I can do that with the help of a therapist. Okay, next segment is finances. I had just 2 goals, one of which was to track my expenses weekly, and the second of which was to do No Spend January. I will talk about No Spend January in a different segment of this video, so stay tuned. And in terms of tracking my finances, I did that. It feels so good because I feel like I finally have a tracking method that works well for me, that gives me a clear picture of my finances at any given time. And so I was always just eager and excited to track my expenses. And then the final category is content creation. So coming into 2025, I really wanted to level up my content creation on my platforms on YouTube. And so let's go through them. So one of my goals was to update my content dashboard weekly. I have not been doing that, and I think it's because the content dashboard that I'm trying to build is on Notion. I just don't like the way it works. I'm trying to I guess long story short, the reason that I didn't hit this goal was because I don't like the way I built it. And so I have to really think through how I want that dashboard to be functional for me, because right now it just is not. And so updating it weekly just did not make any sense. And so I didn't do that. So I'm using it in a different way, but definitely not using it as I intended to. Another goal was to post weekly YouTube vlogs, and I definitely feel like I have been on top of my grind and posting weekly vlogs every Saturday, and it's felt good. And I do feel like there are some new faces or new subscribers here, which hi if you're new here. So thrilled and honored to have you joining our little family on the internet, and I hope you stick around and enjoy. Post 3 reels weekly on IG, so that's my sort of personal IG, and then post 3 reels and 3 carousels on my podcast Instagram. These I've kind of struggled with, to be honest, because content creation is not my full-time job. I have a full-time job that is quite literally it takes up all my time. And so at the end of the workday, I don't have much to give. I mean, my weekends, it's just, I think I bit off more than I can chew with this goal. 3 reels maybe I can do, but to be creating like sort of separate content for 2 separate like short form content types for 2 different accounts was harder than I thought it would be. And so I think I'm going to be very realistic in terms of setting goals for February about what I hope to be able to achieve. So unfortunately, I did not hit these goals and record 2 podcast episodes. Can't say that I did. I'm definitely getting back on my podcast episode grind. I really do like talking about things, and I'm trying to take the podcast in like a different way. I want it to be a space where I can kind of touch on kind of like culture things, like social things and healing things, and just like exploring life as it is right now and trying to navigate growing and thriving in the world we live in. So those are my goals for the month of January. I feel like in certain areas I definitely killed it. Health, wellness, spirituality, knowledge, killed it. Finances, doing pretty good. Work, doing pretty good. Content creation, I could use some improvement, and I think honestly it's just a matter of reframing and refining for next month and being realistic with what I can actually do. Given the type of person I am, I'm also an introvert. I don't have a lot of energy to give, and so it's like, can I just put that into consideration and be realistic with what my output can be? So yeah, that's the plan for next month. So let's move on to the next segment. All right, so in this segment, we're going to be talking about all of the books that I read in the month of January. Now, I know some people are very much purists when it comes to books and don't consider audiobooks a form of reading. I consider audiobooks books, and I'm including them in this category. And so I guess a more apt subtitle is all of the books I read and listened to in the month of January. So we'll start with all the books I listened to. So I have a library card with the Calgary Public Library, and I have their Libby app, which allows me to borrow and listen to books through the app. So far in the month of January, I have listened to 3 audiobooks, and this is not in any sort of order, but I listened to The Laws of Connection, The Scientific Secrets of Building a Strong Social Network by David Robson. I'm not going to do like a summary or anything like that because I did not plan to do a summary, but I actually kind of enjoyed this book. It introduced some new concepts to me, one of which was this idea of like the liking gap. The next book I read was Your Body is a Revolution, Healing Our Relationships with Our Bodies, Each Other, and the Earth by Tara Tang. And then another book I listened to is You Are the One You've Been Waiting For, Applying Internal Family Systems to Intimate Relationships, and this was by Richard Schwartz. Actually, this was pretty good for me. I really enjoyed it. I had heard about internal family systems through a podcast I listened to quite a bit a couple years ago. I didn't really know what it was, but I just sort of kind of assumed what internal family systems was about, but once I actually listened to the introduction to internal family systems, obviously also by Richard Schwartz, because he sort of developed this idea, it was not what I expected, and it's not familial, like human relationships like that. It's the idea that within you there are multiple different parts that are often performing different functions, and there's also this idea of a self that is your true self and not like a manifestation of history or trauma or things like that. So those were the 3 books I listened to, and then I also read 2 books. So the first book that I finished, I actually started reading this book last year. So this is The Origins of Totalitarianism by Hannah Arendt. I have never taken so long to read and finish a book in my life, and I'm very pleased with myself that I didn't abandon it. I came close to abandoning it, but I'm so glad that I did not. Although it was a slog at points, it's crazy to read this book given the current like political and global political climate and everything that is happening. There were moments where I was like, holy shit, this is sort of what's going on right now. But it was interesting because I could see vestiges of history kind of playing out in our modern time. And so, yeah, it was a slog, it was hard, it was technical, but it was very much necessary. But finally finished this book, guys. Let's clap for me. We made it, we made it. And then the other book that I read is Divine Rivals. So a colleague of mine had told me about this, and she'd been encouraging me to read it, and it was cute. It was definitely very YA. The protagonists were like 19, quite young, and so I felt like a teenager reading this. I have some thoughts about this, but I'm not going to share those thoughts because that's not the point of this segment. It was good, but I'm not going to read the follow-up, so like the sequel, because I kind of heard that the sequel is not as good as this one. There were moments where I enjoyed it, and there were moments where I was definitely turning the page. And I think this kind of solidified to me the fact that I'm a big enemies to lover type trope person. And that's kind of like the situation here. But there were like many questions that I had about like the world building and like the magic system. It didn't really feel fully fleshed out. And so I wouldn't consider this like my favorite romantasy by any stretch of the imagination, but it was good. It was kind of cute and sweet to read. But those are all the books that I read and listened to in the month of January. I feel very, very proud of myself for finishing that very big book by Hannah Arendt. So really with my reading, I try to not just do like fiction. I always like to have a balance, but in this case, it definitely was skewed more towards nonfiction. But anything I want to be able to get lost in a magical world, but also have something that I'm reading on the side, or have another book where I am learning something real, valuable, new, something that can add to my knowledge of myself and of other people around me. And I feel like I definitely got that this month, so that was pretty good. Okay, so we're done with the book segment. Let's move on to the next segment. Okay, let us talk a little bit about money. So I went on a whole spiel at the beginning of this video about how I want to keep certain things private, and that also has to do with my money. Now, I think it's important to talk about money, but I don't think it's particularly necessary to go into every single penny, to share every single input and output. And call me old-fashioned. I think it might just be because of the way I've been raised and what my values are, but I don't want to share exactly how much I make a month, a year. I just don't want to share it, so I won't. But I'm hoping that this information is still useful. To certain people, I want to be able to just be like practical, share like practical things that will actually help you if you are looking to get your finances in order and just be more financially responsible and financially healthy. One of the first things that I'm going to tell you that is a habit that you should definitely have is having a budget and expense tracker. If you don't know if you are spending more than you make, if you are saving and investing enough, or you just have no clear picture of your financial health. And so I think it's important to have a financial dashboard, to have like a budget and expense tracker. And it doesn't have to be like anything like crazy. It could just really just be income, expenses, what's left over. And anyway, that's like my first tip. And I think my second tip is definitely always pay yourself first. So set aside money for an emergency fund, set aside money for your investments. Think about your future self and delay gratification as much as you can. I think that's one of the things I've always liked about like my upbringing, my mother used to drum it into my head to put aside, if we like got money as gifts from like friends, family, whatever, she would always encourage us to put aside a little bit and save a little bit, and to always have savings and to always have money set aside. And I think it's just common sense, just save some freaking money, just put some money aside. You just never know. I think one of the things that I honestly, I'm trying to like avoid as much as I can is debt, and especially high interest debt. We don't want it. We don't want it. But I think though, what I'm gonna do for this time until I figure out a better way to incorporate my finances and expenses and budget tracking and whatnot into these resets, I'm just gonna share general percentages. Now, at the time of sharing this, there are still, we're just like a couple days away from the end of the month. So it's not exactly January 31st, but we're pretty close. And so I feel like I don't have any big things coming up soon coming up in the next couple of days that will drastically change these percentages. So let's go. So in this tracker, I just have everything sort of segmented. And so you will see that the largest expense so far at any given time for me is my housing. And that is because I pay a mortgage and I pay condo fees. You know, they always say that you should make sure that you're not spending 30% or more than 30% of your income on your housing. And I think that advice would have applied back in the days, but in this economy and with this housing market, I would be very surprised to find someone that is spending 30% or less of their income on housing. They must have gotten their home when interest rates were pretty low. And if you're renting in a big city, you're probably shit out of luck, especially if you live alone too. But I think 40% is reasonable for my situation and for my life circumstance, and I'm definitely comfortable with it. And I think given my income, I can also weather small increases in, that percentage. So I think 40% is reasonable, is realistic, given the current state of the economy. Transportation is 17%, and that includes, so I have a vehicle that I pay a car note on. I pay a car note twice a month, and so that goes into my transportation bucket. And I also pay car insurance. That also goes into my transportation bucket. And I've also included in transportation things like gas, car maintenance, parking costs, and now also my transit pass. So I think at the beginning of the year, I sort of talked about the decision to give up my parking spot at work and just take the train into work instead, just because it made more financial sense to me. So for food, really food is just groceries. That's what I consider food. And yeah, so food was just 6%. I paid another 6% on recurring bills and subscriptions. 10% of my income went towards retirement and investments, and another 10% went toward my savings, and my savings is like my emergency fund. So that is the sort of blurry, but not too blurry, kind of grainy financial picture for the month of January. Yeah, and I think this is a perfect segue to talk about how No Spend January went for me and everything that I learned during this challenge. Okay, let's talk about No Spend January. How did that go? No Spend January was good. And I think I learned kind of a bit about myself and about like my money mindset. And so I'm often afraid about spending money, and but at the same time I want to spend money, and at the same time I feel like I need all these things, but like I have such an incredible sense of guilt after I buy something. If the angle looks a bit different, it's because I had to change my memory card. But one of the things I really had to come to terms with and like wrap my head around this month was just kind of like realizing that, Deb, you are financially blessed, you're abundant, you have money, and money will always find its way to you. What are you so afraid of? And I haven't figured it out yet. I haven't by any means addressed my money mindset or fixed it or learned to see money for what it is and not to be afraid of money, and to understand that money can be transformative, but it doesn't need to have a hold on me. But what this no spend challenge taught me really is how pervasive social media can be and how negatively impactful it is on our finances and our spending habits. I actually noticed that I get influenced. As much as I don't want to admit it, I get influenced. But I think the difference is because of my money mindset and my fear around spending money, I'm often able to kind of stop myself from being impulsive about my purchases. So for instance, I'm seeing someone on Instagram. I like their workout outfit, and it turns out it's from Honor Active. And I'm like, oh, I should go on Honor Active and see what kind of workout fits they have that I can get. Meanwhile, I have workout clothes. I don't immediately right away need workout clothes, right? So it's like, I think we still like really need to explore this idea of the impact social media has on what we're being influenced to spend our money on and buy subconsciously, and how we kind of want to look like other people too. Like sometimes I see someone and I like the way that they've done their hair. It's like, oh, I want my hair like that. Or maybe I should see what wigs I can buy that will help me get that same look, you know? There were also moments throughout this no spend where I was like, oof, I really, like Amazon, I've got a problem with Amazon, y'all. Amazon is... I'm not even gonna lie, I already have some things queued up in my basket that I'm going to order as soon as this challenge is done. And I think the good thing about this challenge is that it has allowed me really sit on things, you know, really carefully consider. Like I'm always very careful about making sure I consider what I buy, but even more so. And so I know that whatever it is that I go ahead and buy once this challenge is done, and once I free myself of this this constriction that I've placed myself within, I know that whatever it is I decide to buy I've thought carefully about it and I'm sure about it. And hopefully I don't feel too badly about it. But I think, again, given the whole fear and guilt around money, I probably will still feel a bit itchy. But it has been nice to keep a wish list of things that I would love to buy, and then to kind of revisit them from time to time and remove things like, actually, that was kind of an impulsive add to cart sort of situation. I don't really need that. Yeah, I think overall it was good. I think this challenge has forced me to not eat out. I don't eat out a ton, but there were some days, like over the last couple of days, where I was like, oh, I don't really like the lunch that I've prepared for this week. It would just be nice to go get a Subway or a sandwich or just go buy something to eat. But it made me stick to the plan. And I think that's the thing, you gotta learn to stick to the plan. And sometimes I couldn't stick to the plan during this challenge, but sometimes I did. And I think that's good. But yeah, overall, I didn't think it was gonna be extremely difficult. I think the most difficult part was just the thing social media does to your brain when it comes to seeing other people's stuff and feeling like you need that stuff. I really had to recognize that and sort of break myself out of that spell every time I felt myself getting into it. And this challenge also really shed some light on my money mindset, and how much work I still have to do when it comes to my attitude with money. But overall, it was good, but I am glad to be done with it, because it is annoying to have to keep a large running list of things that I kind of need to buy. And I think the biggest thing most of all is that my life is still good. And I've learned to use up what I have, and I've learned to wear the clothes that I have in my closet and be creative with how I wear them. And I've just learned to enjoy what I have, how much I have, and just be grateful for them. And I think those are like the biggest lessons and takeaways, is just the sense of gratitude I just feel, even more so than usual, because of the things that I have, you know? Like, I'm doing this no spend challenge, but I don't really feel deprived, and it's a beautiful feeling, and I'm grateful for it. So yeah, that was the wrap up for January, and a smidgen into what the plan is for February. I'm excited for February. February is the month of love, and a lot of like important things are happening in February, especially work-wise. So it's going to be sort of a challenging month, but I'm looking forward to it still, and I'm ready to tackle the month when it comes. But I hope y'all have enjoyed this sort of format of resetting and wrapping up the month. I wanted to do something a bit different. I wanted to be a bit more purposeful about this sort of style of video rather than just sharing me cleaning. But anyway, I hope you've all enjoyed watching. Thank you so much for being here. I love and appreciate you more than you know, and I cannot wait to connect with you and see you next time in another vlog. Bye.